G'day everyone. Last week exotic class items in Duel Destiny were released, and I've seen a lot of claims and results surrounding farming these. Most people say that farming Duel Destiny is the easier and faster option, but I wanted to see for myself. Exotic class items are a new and unique alternative to standard exotic armor. They feature two simplified versions of standard exotic perks, meant for use with Prismatic. And when I say meant for use with Prismatic, they're locked to Prismatic subclasses, so they're not a complete replacement for standard builds, but they are, however, hugely powerful in their own right, and allow for some pretty crazy and never-before-seen interactions. For example, the one that I've been excitedly farming for the most is Spirit of Apotheosis and Spirit of the Star Eater. This gives Warlock hugely boosted super damage, and it allows for some pretty crazy ability spamming after using it. And funnily enough, for the first time in a while, Warlocks have really good boss DPS abilities and supers with this and Prismatic. My main current theory craft is like Needle Storm and Threadling Grenades with Euphony, the new raid exotic linear fusion rifle that boosts its own damage when dealing damage with Threadlings up to 25 times. This thing already cranks damage, and I've done a little bit of testing with the perk Spindle at 25 stacks, and it's really surprising and really impressive, but I just need this class item to make the build more viable and more consistent for boss DPS scenarios and general play, stuff like Master Champions and under light level stuff. I've also come up with a route for farming chests, and I have the data to prove that this route is faster than Duel Destiny. We'll start with the route, and look, I can't draw a map to save my life, so hopefully you can follow along and I'll explain some things as we go. We only need a few requirements for this farm, and they're pretty easy to meet. First up, a ghost with Wombo detector on it. This lets us see all chests and planetary materials within what it states as a 50-meter radius. Now I say that because we can change that a little bit. We'll also need a sniper, and the zoom doesn't really matter, so whatever works for you. This is because zoom affects Wombo detector, and it lets us see those markers just a little bit further away. I also recommend any eager edge sword, be it a falling guillotine or a dare's sword, and it's useful for just making adjustments and speeding up the run by a few seconds. And now finally, and probably most controversially, I gotta recommend a Skimmer. I have some minor changes for a route while using a Sparrow, and those will be a little bit later, but given the Skimmer's ability to sail over gaps, it does save a fair bit of time. Alright, starting off, the chests don't spawn for 15 to 20 seconds after initially spawning in, and I'm going to call this the grace period. I usually take this time to set up, and so what I do is I move down to these brass, copper spheres, and I'll clear the immediate area of any hive. Scope in with the sniper, and when you see the first chest or planetary material spawn in, you'll begin the run. After a few runs, you'll learn pretty much all of the chest spawns, but the path overall stays the same. You're just moving in a loop around the map, and you have to make sure to be within about 50 meters of every chest spawn location so you can see it and go grab it. Once the loop is complete, I'll go grab any of the marked chests that spawn in the lower cave section in the middle of the map, and you'll be able to see them while in the loop, so keep them in mind. After I've grabbed all the chests, I'll reload into the landing and I'll repeat the cycle. Just a few things, I tend to head back to orbit once the overthrow level hits 2 or 3, usually 3. This is when events start spawning that really interfere with the route and pathing, such as the large arena-style bubble near the spawn, the Shrieker and Ogre room at the bottom of the map in the caves, and the 3 Lucent Hive bubbles in the middle of the map. If you can dodge and avoid these events without losing too much time, great, do that. Now, the Sparrow route and variation comes in at a few seconds slower every run. and the time loss mainly happens at this floating bridge and tree at the bottom of the map. You can usually circumvent this by watching the chest spawns down at the bottom end of the map and looping through the middle towards the caves. If there's a chest down there near the bridge, eager edge over to it and return to the normal route. In these clips, you'll see me drive the Sparrow across the bridge, and if there's enemies down there, or if you mess up a thruster dodge and you hit the tree, it does lose a little bit of time, so keep that in mind. Now overall, these routes can be made faster and more optimal with stuff like shatter skating, ascension skating, strand grapple, or like Icarus dash. I did want to keep this route class neutral at the moment, and maybe I'll make some hyper optimal routes for each class, but let me know down in the comments if you'd want to see that. Now that we've got our routes, let's go look at the data. Just quickly, these spreadsheets will be available in the description below. After learning the route, I ran it 129 times and recorded all of the data. How many chests there were, how long each run took, and how many engrams and class items dropped. These 129 runs featured a total of 608 chests, and in my runs I got 15 class item drops. The time stats on this table are recorded in seconds, and they do include the 20 or so second grace period at the start of each run as well. They do not, however, include loading and menu times. I didn't want to include them because they do vary from player to player, and if you're on console or PC, it's not really representative of the efficiency of the farm. Now, on an average run, it'll take about 1 minute and 41 seconds, with an average of 4.7 chests per run. And this doesn't include the occasional high-value target chest, which I do recommend nuking and grabbing if it's on your path. All in all, it's hard to pinpoint an exact drop rate for the class items, seeing as I only have my own data, and the drop rate is low enough to mean that a single outlier could throw off the exact percentage by a few decimal points. Using all of these averages, however, we can figure out to a pretty solid degree of accuracy how many chests and how many runs it takes to drop a class item. Here we can see the average clear time, the drop rate, and the average clears per drop. Using this, we can extrapolate that, not including loading times, chest farming in the landing will reward an exotic class item every 13 minutes and 50 seconds of near optimal farming time. Now that's pretty good. To compare, I did some runs of Duel Destiny with my clanmates to try and find the average clear time for the activity. With a dedicated farming partner, the times average out to around 14 minutes and 30 seconds while using Eager Edge and some speed strats. Now there is something that I want to point out, and that's the bug regarding getting double loot from the Duel Destiny mission. I'm not going to show off how to do that, but it does save significant time in the long run. It's by far the most optimal way of farming these, and I expect that it'll probably be patched within a few days, but the data is important for right now and in the future for posterity's sake. Now, looking at the average clear times and drop times, saving 40 seconds by gambling and playing with drop chances doesn't seem like much on the surface, but there are 64 permutations of this class item per character. And at the moment, I don't know if there's bad luck protection. I don't think so. I've gotten a single duplicate out of my 20 odd that I have so far. So now let's move over to the no drop protection sheet. If you're targeting a specific role, this is about how long it takes for each version of farming. It's pretty rough. I personally like long farming sessions and really having to grind for something, but I know that the average player might not be too big a fan of that. Standard Duel Destiny farming currently requires a partner and is generally slower than farming chests alone. I wanted to map out this data and make it publicly available in the scenario that Bungie both patches the Dual Destiny double drop issue and they potentially change the drop rate from Pale Heart chests. I also did a few runs of farming Overthrow and farming chests in the daily Overthrow area, which at the time was the Impasse. And there were no real significant changes to the drop rate, but there was a big drop in the clear time. But overall, at the moment, farming chests on the landing is the fastest way to score these, and they're 100% worth it. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. Let me know any thoughts down in the comments below, and I hope you learned something from this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe.